Let's consider some of the big ideas with outliers and the least square regression line. So in my big ideas, I've sketched just a quick scatter plot, and think about what we looked at with the applet, that there is a vertical line I can draw that would represent the mean of the x values. So it's going to be like the middle there. There's also a horizontal line I could draw, which would be the mean of the y values, and that intersection then is that point x bar, y bar. And that point right there will fall on your least square regression line. So I am, of course, guessing a little bit here what it's going to be like. That's not a very straight line. But if you imagine that x bar, y bar kind of acts as a teeter-totter or a seesaw, it's where your least square regression line is going to be leveraged by points that are extreme in your x. Okay, so a good least square regression line, another big idea here, is going to have a low s value. We've mentioned this before, meaning your residual is the typical distance an actual point is from your model. That distance is going to be low. And it will also have a high r squared if it's a good model, meaning that that's the percent of the variability in the y's that is accounted for by the model. Let's put some vocabulary together with the words that we discovered, or the concepts we discovered in that applet. So a influential point. Influential point is simply a point that when we take it away from the analysis, get it out of the scatter plot, it changes the relationship substantially. So we saw that it either altered the y-intercept, the slope, or our r value. There are three types of influential points. We have outliers, which we've talked a lot about, but that's a point that does not follow the general trend shown in the rest of the data. And it has a really large residual when the least square regression line is calculated. And what outliers do is they change your correlation. It really impacts R. Then we have high leverage points. So these are the ones that are extreme in their X values. They're far away from X bar. And what it does is it really changes your slope and your y-intercept. Think of that idea of the teeter-totter. It's really going to pull that least square regression line down or up. And then we could have a third type would be influential points that are both outliers and high leverage. So let's look at these three scatter plots and determine if we see influential points and if we would say that they're outliers, high leverage, or we could say that they are both. So I'd like you to pause and hit play when you're ready to check your answers. So when I glance at this, I'm looking for any outliers. So I don't see any outliers really here. And I don't really see any high leverage points, meaning therefore I don't really have any influential. So I'm going to answer no to all three of these. In my second scatter plot, now I have this in color, making it rather obvious. But this point right here, I would call this an outlier, yes. So is it high leverage? No, it's not extreme in its X, but then is it influential? Well, I would say yes, because it is definitely going to impact my correlation. May not impact my slope or my y-intercept. Okay. The third one, this point down here, so yes, this is going to be influential. Would we say that it's an outlier? Yes, because it's definitely out of trend. It's going to have a high residual. Is it high leverage? Well, yes, it's extreme in X, So it's going to definitely pull my slope down, and my y-intercept would probably go up. So therefore it is also influential because it's definitely impacting my model. Let's do the check your understanding. The scatter plot shows the payroll in millions of dollars and number of wins for Major League Baseball teams in 2016, along with the least square regression line. The points highlighted in red represent the LA Dodgers, which is my far right point, and the Cleveland Indians is the upper left. Describe what influence the point representing the LA Dodgers has on the equation of the least square regression line. Explain your reasoning. So I would say that that is definitely influential. It is going to impact my least square regression line. So how will it? What type is it? Is it an outlier? Is it high leverage? Is it both? It's not really out of pattern, so I would say that this is a high leverage point. So I've stated that since Los Angeles is on the far right below the least square regression line, it will decrease the slope and increase the y-intercept. Secondly, describe what influence the point representing the Cleveland Indians has on the standard deviation of the residuals and r squared. Okay, so this as an outlier is far away from the model. So the magnitude of that residual is big. So what's that going to do? It's going to increase the standard deviation of the residuals. Because Cleveland has a large residual, it makes S, that standard deviation of the residuals, increase, and it's going to make r squared smaller. Now, why will r squared get smaller? Well, it's going to weaken my correlation, and if it's weakening r, it's also weakening r squared. So it's making my model poor having it in there.